Thank you. Wonderful to be with you all. Grateful for Levon and Elizabeth and Renee, for all of you for organizing all of these sessions and this series in particular, and inviting me to be a part of it. Many of you, I think I saw a screenshot of last week's. We're at last week's session. I was able to catch up on some of the notes of that, which, as you all know, you were there. It was incredible and rich and rigorous. So thank you for that incredible session and this conversation. And I am grateful to get to pick up the conversation and keep things moving today as well. Today is going to start in the clouds, and then we're going to really move down and put our toes in the mud and play a little bit. And what I mean by that is this is going to be, let me just put it up on screen here. We are going to be talking about writing social justice on social media. So to do that, we're going to go big and start with the social media side. What is social media? Do a little bit of a survey of the various platforms, the history of it, what Riverside uses. So you might walk away from this just knowing a bit more about social media, why a church like Riverside uses social platforms. We'll talk a little bit about the whole writing social justice aspect and what that means and why that's essential and why that's central to Riverside's work. And then it's going to land with the invitation for you to get to do this, not just write social justice on social media on your own accounts, but the invitation is going to be for you to reflect on some prompts and even do some creative work. Starting in this session, you'll have time over the course of the weeks to come. And then the things you write, some of it, there'll be just general essays you could write, but you can also write social media content that Riverside would be honored to be able to publish your work in that space as well, which, by the way, means you'd be getting published to around 10 to 20,000 people in your audience. So not a bad little publishing gig you got yourself signed up for. So we'll get into that as we go. Just wanted to give you a brief lay of the land of where we are and where we're headed. We'll have space along the way and for sure at the end for some questions, but I want to keep us on time so we can have this wonderful time together. So let's start writing social justice on social media. First, a brief history of social media. Okay. All my buttons. Brief history of social media. First, there are so many choices. This isn't even all of them. This is just a sampling of some social platforms that exist in the world today. Some of these you might be thinking, I have no idea what that one is. That's okay. The point of this is to just recognize there are so many choices because the world we live in today, it seems like there's a new social platform popping up every other week, and that kind of is the case sometimes. But first, what we're going to do is with all of the overwhelming nature of social media in mind, I want us to start by looking at what have been the most popular websites since the beginning of the internet? Oh, that's a fun question. I found a video that kind of illustrates this and shows you which were the most popular, and you'll really be able to see on the timeline when social media popped up there and how it ranked over the past 20 years now, because the internet became a public space in the early 90s. So that's when we really see this happening. So I'm going to talk through some of this as we watch it, but you're going to get to see the animation here on this little video. Here we go. All right. It's video play. There we go. And slides. My computer is thinking this, you're doing too much when your computer can't handle it. Oh, it's really going all over the place. Bear with me. Even digital ministers need help. Here we go. 1993. Here you go. You can see the dates at the bottom. 1994. You might recognize some of these things. AOL was big. Yahoo was big. Netscape, Navigator. GeoCities is the closest thing to social media back in the 90s. That was when you could create your own little website, but nothing that would really live in the social media space just yet. Amazon, there's when Amazon kind of came to exist, late 90s, and you can see it kind of making its way up there as well. Yahoo reigns supreme. That's when search kind of became a space. Oh, watch out, Yahoo. Here comes Google climbing. We're in 2002 now. Yahoo is still supreme, but Google is catching up. Oh, do you think Google, who are you going to bet on, Google or Yahoo? Oh, we all know how this one wins. Oh, look at that. Social media made its way on. MySpace.com. There it is in 2005, 2006, and it stands strong. And YouTube comes on the scene. Facebook comes on the scene. Oh, here we are. We know this era. 2008, 2009. Look at these. Google takes the lead, most popular website. How long will it stay in that position? YouTube comes in second place. There it is. Facebook takes over. It's like a horse race here. Oh, look at that. We got Twitter on the scene now. Twitter is it going to stay down there behind Wikipedia? Can you beat Yahoo? I feel like I'm an auctioneer. Instagram has popped up. Okay. Facebook, Google is dominating. This is a horse race. And in the left lane, Twitter comes in, coming up on Yahoo, catching up on the turn. And okay. 2019, we're catching up to current day. 2020, Twitter, Instagram on a little race. Oh, Twitter's getting a little head start there. Instagram catches up. And there we have it, 2022. This brings us just to last November. That was 20 years of internet right before our eyes. The most popular websites in the end of this last year: Google, number one, people are searching for stuff; YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Baidu, which is I believe out of China, a search engine space and a messaging platform. But look at what rose to the top so quickly in what is already a short lifespan of the internet. So when we say there are so many choices, it's true. So many things have proliferated over these past 20 years. And there are so many options. Where do you spend your time in online spaces? And for each of us personally, you might have interests in different ones. So like, just to cover a few of these, over here on the left, this little icon is for a platform called Strava. It's for people who go running and biking. So I'm a runner, so I'm using that one for my running. Goodreads, this is where you keep track of books you're reading. So if you're reading books, this might be a space for you. Discord, down here on the bottom right, this is often a community space revolving around video game culture, but it's broadening beyond that. So it becomes a community building space. Twitch up here is a live streaming platform. Again, came out of live streaming video games, but it's broadening beyond that. SoundCloud, this is an audio social network sharing audio files. Clubhouse, this is like a audio room where you get to join a space and talk with people and hear their voices, like podcasting in real time. These all serve particular purposes. And so each individual might have an interest in various aspects of the social internet. And it's worth pointing out that when we talk about the social internet, social media, that really is what you saw on the timeline. It came to be in kind of 2006 or so is when some of this popped up. And that's really what we look at as Web 2.0. Around early 2000s and into those early aughts was Web 2.0, where the internet had a bit of a shift. And it's where social media essentially became built into the fabric of it. And what it really means is Web 1.0 was primarily a one-way communication. It was a website posted information and you could go there and read it. You could interact with it. That was it. But Web 2.0 is where suddenly the conversation could go forwards and backwards, have a give and a take. And that is truly what social media has allowed. It allows for people to have that engaging conversation. It's no longer a one-way street, but it goes not just in two directions, but in every direction. By the way, we are now, they say, in Web 3.0, which is even a further evolution, which is really where you see blockchain technology and things like cryptocurrency. But that's a whole other class for another day. We're talking about writing social media, social justice, and we're going to live in this social media space. So there's so many choices, so many options of spaces to lean into when it comes to social media. And at Riverside, we have to ask, which spaces should we invest our time and energy and content and community into? And for us, that has landed into these 5. Oh, interesting how they were all lined up like that. It's like I planned that. At Riverside, these are the 5 we spend most of our time and energy on: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, which, yes, can technically be considered a social network with some of the ways they've added into it, and TikTok, which is our newest foray into this world of social media. We don't do too much dancing, though. Sorry to disappoint you. So I want to talk briefly about these 5 platforms, just so you understand a bit more of their history and why a church like Riverside might use them. And we're going to keep all this tight, so we're going to move a little bit fast on some of this, but I promise you can just Google all this and find out this and so much more. So let's start with Facebook. Facebook in 2003 It was called The Facebook, came out of Harvard University, guy named Mark Zuckerberg. You probably heard of him, love him or hate him. Maybe you've seen the movie, The Social Network, covers some of this history as well. 2003, it was called The Facebook. He invented it in his dorm room. 2005, the has been removed. Now it's just Facebook. And at this point, it's been available at every university and more. High schools are getting access to Facebook, businesses. 2005 is when I joined Facebook. My college roommate said, hey, you got to get on this so we can keep in touch after we graduate. 2006, Facebook invented the news feed. It's crazy to think that the way we use Facebook, the news feed is, that space you log in and just see all the content. That's what we're used to now. But initially, you had to go to everyone's Facebook page to see what they were posting. There was no central place. And when the news feed came out, everyone hated it, because doesn't everyone hate things when it changes? Oh, don't change something. Now we're all just used to it and love it or hate it still. But either way, 2006, this thing that seems like it's just common to it was a new invention. 2009. Oh, how about this? The like button was invented in 2009. Is it crazy to think that for most of our lived existence, the like button wasn't a thing, but now it just seems like it's saturated every part of the internet and our lives? 2012, Facebook buys Instagram for $1 billion. Oh, I'm missing some zeros on that, aren't I? That's 1 billion, not 1 million. Ignore my typo. 1 billion with a B dollars. At the time, that was the largest purchase for a startup. And we'll talk more about Instagram in a little bit. 2014, Facebook buys Oculus virtual reality for $2 billion. Again, I'm missing some zeros, but ignore that. $2 billion 2 years later for Oculus. We'll talk about them briefly in a minute as well to see how that investment has played out. Still in 2014, Facebook buys WhatsApp, a messaging platform, for $16 billion. Again, I'm looking at B's here, so add 3 more zeros in your brain. $16 billion for WhatsApp. Whew, Instagram should have held out for more. And in 2015, there were, again, I'm missing some zeros, 1 billion users in a single day on Facebook. That is billion with a B. Add some zeros there. Imagine that. In 2015, on a single day, 1/8 of the entire human population was on Facebook. That baffles my mind and is kind of exciting and frightening at the same time. Because in 2017, they took down 470 fake Russian accounts. They discovered that there had been at least 470 verified Russian bots or fake accounts, and they were all shown to be used in connection with the 2016 presidential election. Okay, Facebook, interesting what you're doing to these billions of people you're connected to. 2018, Facebook said, whoops, when they had to go before Congress to talk about some Senate hearings about all the account information that had been leaked and some all sorts of private information. So suddenly, Facebook used to be this fun new space, buying stuff for billions of dollars. 2017, all these fake accounts. 2018, everyone's information is leaked. And now in 2021, Facebook, the organization, has rebranded itself as Meta, and Facebook is a product of Meta, similar to Instagram is a product of Meta. And Meta is now what they're calling their virtual reality space, the metaverse. So that purchase back in 2014 of Oculus is now where they're leaning hard into for the future of the internet and our experience. So Facebook, love it or hate it, it is an interesting entity, but this history leads to the question, well, why would a church like Riverside be on Facebook? And that's in some ways a difficult question to answer for each of these spaces we're going to talk about. But I will say probably a similar answer each time. And for Facebook especially, the role of the church has always been to be where the people are, to show up where people are present. That's why, in the book of John, it says the word became flesh and dwelt among us. Tabernacled among us, set up a tent right in the middle of the people, not off in the distance, not someplace no one else is at, but where the people are. It's also what you learn if you watch The Little Mermaid. I want to be where the people are. And the role of a church is to show up in the spaces where people show up, and people show up on Facebook. So a church like Riverside is present on Facebook for a couple of reasons. personally, I've experienced this. I had a moment in my life where I was done with Facebook, which maybe you've had similar moments. And I was like, I'm done. I'm tired of this. I don't want to maintain this. So I switched over to a page instead of a profile just so it would auto post stuff. And then I was working at a church, a middle church, before I came to Riverside. And a congregant was saying to another congregant, hey, thank you so much for praying for me the other day. I'm glad you saw what I posted. I'm like, saw what you posted. Like, hey, where did you post something? Oh, I posted on my Facebook page asking for people to pray for this thing. And a bunch of our congregants did. And I was like, oh, if I'm not on Facebook, I'm not in the place where these congregants are showing up as themselves and asking for help and needing support. So that for me was an immediate switch of like, okay, got to get back on Facebook, because as a pastor, I need to show up where people are. And as a church, we want to show up where people are. We need to do some additional surveys, but some that we've done amongst Riverside have shown that most of our Riverside congregants, Facebook is the most common social network. Some of that is just true among demographics that kind of line up with Riverside's demographics, and some of it comes from research we've done with our congregation. But generally speaking, of those 5 platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok, chances are even all of us on this call right now, I bet Facebook would be the one we all have most in common. So for the Riverside Church, we want to be where our congregants are. We want to make information available, publishing sermons and music from the choirs and information about upcoming events. So we put it in a place where you already are. So that's one of the many reasons why we continue to be on Facebook. And not to mention, it just allows us to connect broadly and stay connected in so many ways. So Facebook is definitely not leaving yet from the world. And as long as there are people on it, you better believe that a church like Riverside is going to continue to show up in the ways that we represent love and justice and empathy and equity in those spaces as well. So that is a brief history of Facebook and a little bit about why Riverside's on Facebook. Now we're going to look at YouTube. I'm talking about these in chronological order, by the way. So this is the order in which they came into exist. Facebook is the oldest of these social networks. Isn't that interesting to think about? YouTube comes next. YouTube was first launched in 2005, and its tagline was your digital video repository. They initially saw themselves as a dating site was their initial pitch, to make it a space where you could post videos and meet other people that way. That didn't quite work. Then it turned into a place where people just posted short videos of like going to the zoo or footage from TV shows. And it was, all copyright infringements, but there was no way to monitor that at the time. And initially that was its initial kind of sweet spot on the internet. In 2006, just 1 year after its launch, Google buys it. I got the right number of zeros this time, for $1.65 billion, $1,650 million. That's more than the Mega Millions was last week. Whew. 2006. So Google now owns YouTube. It's all a part of their family of content on the internet. In 2007, YouTube launched the ability to post videos in 480p, which means 480 pixels across. Now, just to make that the comparison for you, the standard HD is 1080p, 1080 pixels across, or up 1080 high, 1920 across, and 4K is 4000. So 480p is 1/10 the size of your 4K TV you have at home. And at the time in 2007, that was the biggest we could do on the internet. It was so cutting edge. Well, wait a minute. Also in 2007, a couple of guys named Hank and John Green started a project called Brotherhood 2.0, where they spent an entire year only talking to each other by posting YouTube videos back and forth. Every week, they would each post a video talking to each other. You might know John Green as the author of books like The Fault in Our Stars. Hank Green is huge on TikTok these days. And these two have gone on to continue their channel, The Vlog Brothers, over 16 years later, building huge communities of people who offer actual support in the real world. They've built hospitals in Sierra Leone. They have raised, I think, over $1 billion for various nonprofits around the world, all because of two brothers who started a project 16 years ago on this little website called YouTube. And they're still doing it every week. They post videos still. 2009, oh, here we go, 1080p. We're up to full HD. Not bad. It took 2 years to go from 480 to 1080, a standard that's still there today. Although now you can actually film things in 8K, which is, you know, massive. If 4K is 4 times the size of 1080, 8K is just incredible. 2012, YouTube live streams the Olympics. This is when live streaming became a part of YouTube's platform. Every Sunday, Riverside Church uses YouTube to live stream worship to hundreds, sometimes thousands of people around the world watch our content over the course of weeks and months. Also in 2012, a 14-year-old kid named Jimmy Donaldson started a YouTube channel. We'll get back to him in a little bit. 2013, they had 1 billion unique monthly visitors. In the course of 1 month in 2013, 1 billion different people went on YouTube. And by no surprise, in 2014, YouTube officially became more popular than TV. If you ask a kid these days where they go to watch stuff, it's not Saturday morning cartoons in front of their TV like it was when I was a kid. It's YouTube, Netflix, all these spaces online where they're watching things, learning things, being a part of communities in these spaces. 2015, a guy named Casey Neistat started a daily vlog, posting a vlog every day. You've probably heard of vlogging where people take cameras and film themselves. This guy, Casey Neistat, brought a filmmaking perspective to it, where he took his ordinary life and tried to showcase it in a way that was a higher quality. And that's really influenced the world of vlogging that continues to exist today. And then in 2022, Mr. Beast, this is the 14-year-old kid named Jimmy Donaldson, reached 100 million subscribers on his YouTube channel, the most subscribers for an individual's YouTube channel ever. He's up to like 130 million now. What's unique about Mr. Beast is his content, some of it's just sensational. You know, last person to take their hand off this jet gets to keep it. You know, last person to leave this circle gets $500,000. He once ordered a pizza and tipped the delivery guy the house. Here, you get the house as your tip. Some of it's sensational stuff, but some of it is helping people. He's done things where they've took over a bank and people came in for loans and they just gave them the money. What do you need? Okay, here you go. Okay, here you go. They've done ones where they collaborate with other people to raise money to plant 1 million trees around the world to help provide clean air, to clean oceans of plastics and waste. He's doing all this. He has a whole Beast philanthropy company he started where they literally have programs to just provide food and housing and to build houses and around the world for people. This is all a project from a 14-year-old kid who started making YouTube videos in his bedroom in 2012. And now he is one of the most successful content creators in the world who doesn't just do it for his own fame and glory, but he truly does it to make people have a better life, whether it's laughing at a video or truly having their life changed because of what he provides. I'm just blown away. He's 24 years old now, and it's just incredible to see what he's doing. So that's a little bit of the history of YouTube, which if you didn't notice, I'm a fan of YouTube. So why does a church like Riverside spend time on YouTube? Well, this one's fairly simple in my mind. YouTube, as that video of the history of the internet showed us, is the second most viewed website on the internet. People go to YouTube as a search engine. They go there to ask questions. I have a friend, Dave Adamson, who talks about YouTube Your Church. And he says people go on YouTube to ask questions like, how do I fix my car? And how do I fix my marriage? And I'm pretty sure that churches might have an answer to at least one of those, so long as churches choose to show up in those spaces. So we live stream our worship service on YouTube. We publish clips from worship on YouTube. We publish original content. Reverend Thorne and I record a video every week talking about the Bible. We have a message from Reverend Thorne, all sorts of content, new things coming very, very soon, actually, a new project called Bible in a Minute that's going to launch in about a month that I'm quite excited for. But we're using YouTube because that's where people are showing up, asking questions, building community, be learning things, looking for things. And, you know, the whole point of being a church is to show up where the people are, to be present in these real spaces. Even if they're digital, virtual, they're still real. So we want to show up and be where the people are. And we've seen this happen. We've seen videos we publish on YouTube reach hundreds of thousands of people. It blows me away how people will discover things that we posted years ago, and it just continues to get brought up. The algorithm is at work. So we want to show up in the space where people are, providing what Riverside offers, a progressive theological justice lens to how we live in the world. I don't know if you've noticed, but sometimes the word Christian and church becomes synonymous with Republican and conservative. And that's not always what we think it should be. We want to offer a different perspective. And there's not a lot of progressive Christian, liberal Christian YouTubers out there. So we are intentionally present in this space to help reach the people who are showing up, searching in those spaces. So that's a little bit of why we're on YouTube. All right, let's talk a bit about Twitter. These timelines get shorter because each one of these accounts gets younger and younger. Twitter started in 2006. This is the very first tweet ever. A guy named Jack Dorsey, who was the founder of Twitter. He just said, "Just setting up my Twitter." Back when it started, that's how they spelled it, TWTTR. That was the thing to do back then. You dropped out a vowel here and there. March 21st, 2006. 2007 was the invention of the hashtag. You know, those little pound signs you see where people put words next to it. You see it all over on Instagram and TikTok and sometimes even on Facebook. It was invented in 2007 at a conference called South by Southwest, which is in Austin, Texas. Fantastic event. I recommend you ever go if you have the chance. And it wasn't invented by Twitter. This is my favorite thing. Twitter didn't invent the hashtag. People who used Twitter invented the hashtag. They just started using it, a hashtag, and then like an event they were at, because they wanted to find a way to search for other people who were posting at the same event they were posting content from. And so Twitter users just started using this mechanism to denote context. And then Twitter, the organization, started building it into their platform. And now you see it everywhere on the internet. Hashtags are all a thing, you know, hashtag whatever you want to say. But it all came to be in 2007. Before 2007, hashtags didn't exist on the internet. Crazy. 2009, someone tweeted, "There's a plane on the Hudson," and this photo. And this was posted on Twitter before any news outlet even picked it up. This was the first place this story broke. A random person on Twitter was walking his dog and took this photo and posted this on Twitter. 2011, the Arab Spring. Twitter was a large component in how they were organizing themselves for their activism. 2012, President Obama was the first presidential campaign to lean into social media and using Twitter as a platform for organizing and connecting with people. 2016, Trump on Twitter. Oh, now we have a different tone to the conversation and how it's being used. 2017, Twitter went from 140 characters to 280. Originally, Twitter had a limit of 140 characters, and that's all you could type. And that was because back in the day of flip phones, when you were texting like that, that was the limit that you would be able to work within for a text message. And Twitter was used by texting it to the internet. But with the advent of smartphones, we could have more space, and a few other reasons. They doubled it to 280. My favorite thing, by the way, is the launch of 140 to 280 slowly rolled out among Twitter users. And Donald Trump was one of the last people to get 280 characters. It was just really interesting to see that. I don't know if they made that list on purpose, but he was throttled for a few days until he finally got caught up to the 280 new limit. 2020, put that year, you all know that year, was a year where we really saw the rise of misinformation on Twitter, which I know was a conversation in last week's session. But this is where Twitter began putting sometimes disclaimers on tweets. Someone might be tweeting something about vaccines or, pandemics and where it comes from and whatnot. Twitter started editing or annotating some tweets with misinformation remarks at times, or letting people know, which, as we all know, led to certain people not liking that. But it was the rise of this misinformation and the ways in which social media definitely contributed and contributes to this day to it. 2021, we all remember a date like January 6th, 2021 now. That was when Trump was banned from Twitter, and there was great rejoicing. In 2022, this past year, a guy named Elon Musk buys Twitter for $44 billion with a B dollars. Whew. All right. So why is Riverside on Twitter? Well, that's actually a hard question these days, because Elon Musk has made it a slightly different place than it used to be back in 2008, 2012. But again, it still comes back to people are there. And if every progressive voice leaves the platform, well, then what's left? What's being represented? In some ways, people are leaving Twitter out of a boycott of Musk and his posture and policies. But I also think that's a reason to stay, to represent a different point of view. I think of, it's by no means equivalent, but when Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, I must go back to Germany, he couldn't leave his people in the midst of the Nazi conflict. No, staying on Twitter is not the same as being Dietrich Bonhoeffer. But the point is, sometimes you still need to be present, even if injustice is around you, because that's when you can represent justice even more. That's at least what I tell myself for why I'm still on Twitter and why Riverside is still on Twitter. All right. A couple more to talk through briefly. I'm trying to keep my time here. Instagram. This one's a quick timeline because they're pretty young. 2010, a platform called Bourbon. Again, notice the lack of a vowel. That was the thing to do. They changed their name from Bourbon to Instagram. Bourbon was a startup that was a location sharing service, like where you could check into a location and post a photo of what, like the drink you had at the bar. And it turned out people didn't care about the location check-in part of it. They just liked sharing photos. So they switched it from Bourbon to Instagram. 1 year later, 10 million monthly active users. Now that's million with an M. I did get it right this time. 10 million monthly active users, which is incredible for 1 year of growth. That is the fastest growing at the time, the fastest growing social platform on the internet. And so in 2012, Facebook buys it for pardon my typo, $1 billion. Whew. 2013, Instagram offers video. 2016, they change your chronological feed to an algorithm deciding what you want to see. And there was much complaining. Also in 2016, Instagram Stories comes out. That's just Instagram copying Snapchat. 2017, IGTV, which was their way to try to compete with YouTube, came out. That one totally failed, by the way. 2021, Instagram Reels comes out, which was their version of TikTok, which we're going to get to next. It's interesting to note, Instagram started as a photo sharing site, and once Facebook bought them, that quickly shifted. They became just a copycat site where they would copycat whatever was popular and integrate it into Instagram. And that's still what they're doing to this day, which is, it's still fun, but the internet's always an evolving space. So why is Riverside on Instagram? Instagram largely connects with a different demographic. It's owned by Facebook, Meta now, but it's not always the same demographic of people. It skews a little bit younger. Now they're growing up, but it largely is a younger demographic. It's a faster growing platform, and it's a different way of playing in a space. It's visual first. It's the image before the caption. The caption is often unnoticed and people just look at the image. I like to think, and I've heard others in the church talk about it as a resurgence of stained glass, where stained glass windows originally were created in churches and cathedrals as a way of telling the story throughout scripture. In a culture where not everyone could read, literacy wasn't prevalent, everyone could look at a picture. And so stained glass windows were a way of telling stories visually. Instagram offers a similar opportunity, visual storytelling. The image captures it first, and then the caption can support it. And so it offers a unique creative opportunity, a way to engage people, to be where the people are, but to do it in a way that is visual first. All right. Last, but definitely not least, TikTok. This one's the shortest timeline because they are the youngest of all of these. TikTok, 2016, a company in China launched a service called Douyin. And that's the logo of Douyin. and that's a Chinese word that means shaking sound. Douyin still exists. It's the Chinese version of TikTok to this day. But in 2016, that's what was launched. In 2017, that company ByteDance bought a platform called Musical.ly for one, pardon my typo again, $1 billion. I was just off by 3 digits all over the place, I guess, in this presentation. ByteDance buys Musical.ly for $1 billion. Musical.ly wasn't a platform that let you make a video of you lip syncing to a video and doing some silly dances, which, yes, sounds like TikTok because that's where it turned into. I first joined Musical.ly when my niece got me on it one Christmas. She was a 17-year-old and she's like, Uncle Jim, let's do a Musical.ly. What's a Musical.ly? And then I forgot all about it. But 2017, ByteDance buys Musical.ly. And then later that year, ByteDance launches TikTok. Musical.ly merged into TikTok, and that's what we have to this day. 2018, celebrities started using TikTok, various celebrity accounts. It became more of a mainstream thing. And in 2021, that number is correct. 1 billion users on TikTok. 1/8 of the world's population on this platform made famous by dancing silly dances to songs. So why would a church like Riverside be on TikTok? Because we are on TikTok. Did you know that? Well, we started this as an experiment. It was the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, and I was noticing vertical short form video content was showing up on every platform: Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. I was like, I want to just try playing with the same content on all those spaces just to see what happens. And so we started doing this on all these platforms, and we posted some on TikTok, and we posted a video June of 2021. It was a clip from a sermon that Bishop Yvette Flunder preached at Riverside on a Pride Sunday. And within a month, that clip had gathered 10,000 people to follow our account. And so now our TikTok account is coming close to 13,000 followers. And in less than a year, TikTok became Riverside's largest social media following, which baffles me that it happened so quickly, practically. And it made us think, once again, there are people here. And the unique thing is the people we interact with on TikTok are completely different audience than the other spaces. There's often an overlap between Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, but TikTok is this outlier. So when people talk about how is Riverside reaching new people? Well, we're reaching 10,000 of them, 10,000 people. And a lot of them have never heard of a church like Riverside. My friend, Bethany Peerbolt, she's a digital minister currently living in Denver, Colorado, doing digital ministry with the Colorado Presbytery, the Presbyterian church out there. She used to be a youth pastor in Detroit. And during the pandemic, one of her students said something about theology. And she's like, where did you learn that? Because that's not really how we think about that at our church. And the kid was like, oh, I saw a TikTok video. She's like, wait a minute. So there are faith leaders offering a more conservative approach to theology, saying things about human sexuality, LGBTQ people, various things of that nature in a disparaging way. And she's like, how can I show up and offer a different point of view? So she started making TikTok videos that let people know that they are loved exactly as they are, that being queer isn't a sin, that being a woman doesn't mean you're disqualified from ministry. She now has over 300,000 followers on TikTok. It outgrew the size of her church, all because there were people eager for this message of love and hope and inclusion. So that's one of the reasons why Riverside is on TikTok. So we're going to shift slightly to writing social justice for my final minutes that I'm over already. My apologies to the great leaders of this group. When we're writing social justice, we're not using social media to tell Bible stories. We're not trying to convert people to a certain faith. We are trying to just advocate for love and justice and equity and empathy. And this in many ways is the message of Jesus, but we're trying to advocate for those who are pushed to the margins and bring them to the center. So the invitation to write social media and social justice is an invitation to be an advocate, an ally, to stand for the people who are pushed down, to offer the mic to those who aren't given a voice. We're changing the world one click at a time. We're offering hope to people who didn't know there was a way to think this way about the world. They thought that churches especially have one point of view, right? Wait a minute. No, there can be another. Did you know that our current senior minister, Reverend Adrienne Thorne, is the first Black woman to be the senior minister at the Riverside Church? And in so many contexts, still to this day, being a Black woman is the opposite of what people are used to seeing when they see a pastor of a church. So just the representation, the inclusion is what we're able to offer. And when we write social media, we're doing it at the intersection of current events and prophetic imagination. We're trying to say what's happening in the world around us. What are the things that are currently in our world? What's the immigration crisis on the border? Where was the latest mass shooting? Because we all know there was just another one that we're all conditioned to. And what do we need to talk about gun violence and turning swords into plowshares? That's interesting that that's in there. The intersection of current events and prophetic imagination is what we do when we're writing social justice on social media. And so that's what you will be writing. Here's the invitation. You're welcome over the next few weeks to do your writing in the form of essay, poetry, various things as you reflect on social media and the ways it's used. But there's also an invitation to participate on these two platforms from the Riverside Church. We want your voice to be part of what Riverside is sharing. So there are three things we're inviting, perhaps challenging you to consider. Number one is to write one tweet. And the rules for this is you have 280 characters. That's how much fits in a tweet. You got to count each letter. And yes, spaces count as characters. 280 characters for a single tweet. Or you're going to write a Twitter thread. This is where you connect individual tweets into a larger thought. So you might think, I have more than 280 characters to say, but the creative challenge is each piece of that needs to fit concisely in 280 characters at a time. So short sentences, and how do they link together? How do they stand alone? And how do they live as a whole thought? And then lastly, Instagram. We want to invite you to be a part of Riverside's Instagram account. And this is where you're thinking image first. What's the visual? And then what's the caption that supports it? And we have a few prompts that we want to invite you to ponder and think about even today and over the course of the upcoming weeks. If Martin Luther King was on Twitter and Instagram, what would he post? Find a current event related to social justice. Use your prophetic imagination to create social media content that offers your commentary on it. Pick up the newspaper, scroll through whatever platform you check your news on. For me, it's the New York Times app on my phone. What's your commentary with your prophetic imagination? If you could post one thing on Twitter or Instagram and you knew that all 8 billion people with a B, I got that number right, would see it, what would you say? Or lastly, what would Jesus tweet? Someone should make a bracelet out of that one. What would Jesus tweet? We want you to think through the history of social media, where it's led us, why we use a space like this. And the invitation is to think about using these two platforms. You can always post on your own accounts. We're never going to stop you from doing that. But the true invitation for this challenge is to craft something, to submit it to be a part of the writing anthology. And that content can also then be published on Riverside's social media accounts for the world to see and engage with. So it's 7:23. I have eaten up extra minutes. My apologies. Grace abounds that we're a church, right? And I will hear from Levon and others where we're taking this conversation.
Reverend Keat, this what you took us on was the most amazing fast, as social media is characterized as fast, journey. And I am so thankful, and you should see the faces. People were taking notes. People were dropping into chat. Chat is on fire, y'all, and just so wonderful. So thank you for that, Reverend Keat.